packed it was in here.
Yes.
Let's call the meeting to order. Alyssa, we are all present this evening. The invocation this evening will be given by Susan Southall, and the flag salute, Brian Skaggs, would you lead us in flag salute? Sir. Susan, thank you for being here.
Let us pray. Holy and gracious God, we come together this evening grateful for this community of Enid, Oklahoma. We thank you for leaders who unselfishly give of their time and their talents to provide guidance. We thank you for all those servants who put themselves in harm's way each day so we and our families may be safe and enjoy life. Continue to bless all those who give to this great city. Provide them with strength, courage, and wisdom to do all they are called to do. Give all of us renewed vision for the ways we can grow together and nurture and respect one another. Open our eyes to see the needs of our community. Show us those people and situations that most require our attention. Remind us that as your people, we are called to give of ourselves and our resources so that others may have the basic necessities of life. Show us what that looks like at this time in this place. All of this we ask in the name of the one who came to live among us and show us your love, Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, consider approval of the corrected minutes of the regular commission meeting of July 18, 2017, and the special meeting on July the 24th, 2017. We had about three or four items that needed to be added in one sentences, and that's the amended part of it.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ben, second by Ron. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 5, awards, presentations, proclamations, and organizational business. I don't think we have any this evening. Item 5.1, present the pet available for adoption at the city animal shelter.
He's a little shy. Hi, good evening. I'm Charlotte Ringwald. I'm with Enid Animal Control. And tonight we have Meg. She's a 1-year-old female Jack Russell Terrier mix, and she's looking for a new home. She's currently in Pen 5. She's going to be with us at the Back to School Bash this Saturday, so come by and see her. And we have lots and lots of animals available. So please stop by. We've got lots of cats and dogs that need good homes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go on to 5.2, I forgot to make an introduction. We have a new Vice Wing Commander at Vance Air Force Base. Tonight is his second day on the job here at Vance Air Force Base. Colonel Lee, is it Gentile?
Gentile.
Gentile.
Sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Glad to have you in Enid.
Thank you.
Take care of Ono while you're here. Glad to have you. Item 5.2, consider appointments to the Historic Preservation Commission. We have, present this, or do you want me to?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We have one vacancy to be filled by a registered architect. Mrs. Kinkini Aaron is she's the incumbent, she's the only applicant, and she seeks reappointment. I don't see her here in the audience tonight. Again, she's the only applicant that wishes to be reappointed.
I move to appoint Kinkini.
Second. A motion by Ben, and second by George. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0.
There's also another vacancy to be filled by a licensed real estate broker. Mr. Tom Andrew is the incumbent and is term limited. We've received 2 applications from Mrs. Starr Adams Prince and Mr. Jimmy Nicholas. Is Mr. Jimmy Nicholas here? I don't see him. Is Mrs. Adams here? I don't see her either, but you need to vote for one to fill that one vacancy.
While you're tabulating them, we'll go on to 5.3.
And there's one vacancy to be filled by an attorney. Mr. Reagan Allen is the incumbent, but he is also term limited. Mr. Taylor Venus is in the audience, and he is the only applicant.
I move to appoint Taylor.
Second.
Motion by Ben and second by Jonathan. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 5.3, present Vance Air Force Base and Vance Development Authority update by Mike Cooper. Mike? Thank you for being here.
Good to be here as always. Good to see you, Mayor, Council, City Clerk, and of course, your City Attorney, Carol Amon. It's good to see you again. I'll try to be brief and encapsulate everything I've been doing at the state and federal level and really kind of give a little bit about why. The state level, I'll start with first, and I'll come back to some of the other state issues. But first, worked the state level to ensure that the Military Planning Commission was funded. We know where the state budget's at. We did take a 4% cut, so we'll still be funded. Our piece of that for any issues that projects that we may do forward will equal about $159,000. And today at Advanced Development Authority meeting, the Advanced Development Authority approved assisting for a couple of years funding from the Military Planning Commission. Your terminal building, I think, is going to be replaced. And as Dan, I think, has told you, you've got dollars from the Aeronautics Commission and also a donation from an individual as well as the Aeronautics Commission. And of course, the Military Planning Commission will help with that approximately $1.8 million project as well. And of course, it just kind of adds to what we've already done out there. And the reason why that project, you know, we did the hangar, we extended the runway. We have so many planes out there. We created the pad, and of course now because we have so many people out there, the Air Force needs room to do a little bit of work in there. The things that they do as they're in and out of that facility. So that's a great project, plus a huge improvement. I think to have a great new terminal is great for the community because it's kind of everybody that flies in here, it's the first thing they see. So that's be a great improvement. So we kept funding, and then we've got, that will be the next project, and we'll, you know, upwards of $300,000 to $400,000 from the Military Planning Commission that we'll make sure that happens. Next, at the federal level, well, before I get into the federal level, myself and the mayor attended the National Association of Defense Communities Conference in June. I ended first ever 3-year term for that national organization. I will be the immediate chair-elect for 2 years, and then after that 2 years, I'll be over what they call the National Advisory Board, which that is the board that we bring industry leaders, Department of Defense, military services folks, experts together to address the many issues that impact states and communities. So I'll still be engaged at a high level with that organization for quite some time. At that meeting, though, General Robertson, who's the 3-star general down at Air Education Training Command, I presented him with the President's Award. The main reason was because his ability to communicate to you and I what's important, how we can assist the military, also back and forth, how do they help us as a community, and so there's a lot of back and forth between that, and he's recognized at a high level, not just by us, but by the military and Department of Defense Services as well. Things like what's important to them. Airspace is important to them, how we can help them do that. Public to public, public to private partnerships. He communicated that really well to all of us. So hats off to him, and we're excited about that. And again, your mayor was engaged in all of these issues as well. I also had asked the new Secretary of the Air Force to come and present. She was the highlight of the kickoff of this conference. Following her address to the conference, I met with her for about an hour and a half with 8 different communities and state leaders from across the U.S. to talk with her about what was important to the Air Force. And again, be real honest with you, you all know I've always told you that's why we're a member of this type of organization, because we hear from the leadership what's important to them and how things are going and how we can assist them in doing what it is that they do. Her 2 key points, though, were same as General Robertson. We need help protect our #1 military value asset that we have, because we're a flying mission. We need help with protection of airspace, and she certainly appreciated all the things, anything we can do with education. We know as citizens of this town, education is the most important thing that we can do for economic development. It's kind of an infrastructure, quality of life thing, but if we have good schools, then we'll have a good output there. So she appreciated all the things that we're doing here locally. She also appreciated what we're doing at the state level to try to assist with airspace protection, and I'll come back to that in a minute. Also was able to meet with the new director of the Department of Defense Clearinghouse. They're the entity that addresses towers and structures or anything that might impede or impact negatively airspace or training ranges, bombing ranges, things like that, drop zones. And so it was very good. We now have a great personal relationship with him, and I'll talk about how he's going to assist us further. Also had continued private meetings with Richard Hartley, the Principal Deputy Secretary of the Air Force, and the Installation Secretary for the Air Force as well, Jennifer Miller. And again, what I'm going to talk about here in a minute is everything everybody is saying to us is help us protect our vital interests, our vital airspace that we have, because once we lose it, we don't have it. So with that, at the state level, I'll tell you what we're doing at the state level, and these work together. So you have the national level, the National Defense Authorization Act, worked with Senator Inhofe's staff and the new Director of Clearinghouse, Ronald Tickle, to develop language to give the Department of Defense Clearinghouse more strength in what it is that they do when they're addressing negative impact to training ranges, routes, all of those things. Because currently, they don't have the ability to say no to things in that unless it rises to the level of national security. And training and readiness does not. Language is inserted now in the Defense Authorization Act that will be passed later this year to say that readiness and training does level to the level of national security. So they'll be able to address those further. The director of the clearinghouse and the Secretary of the Air Force said that it was very important to have, and I'll explain the state level, what we're trying to do there, that it is not only important to have stiffer language at the federal level, but to have a good permanent backstop to be able to say no to things that would negatively impact your military training routes, approaches to runways, drop zones, bombing ranges. You need to have that sort of legislation to do that. Now, I will say, and I've visited, I work a lot with Brent Kissling on this issue, so we've done a pretty good job of making sure those are protected as well as we can. However, there are impacts, there are accommodations that have been made that they'd rather not have in those positions. Same way with our ACUS ordinance, our local, clear zones, APZ 1 and 2. I won't get into that a lot, but we're going to do a joint land use study here later that is going to address, because everyone has encroachment, everyone has issues, but the issue is, do you, as a community and a state, do you want to do all you can to protect those from further accommodations which would erode mission capability? Well, I think we've all decided that our #1 asset for this base, other than runways, hangars and things like that is airspace, and we're going to do all we can to protect it. So at the state level, what the legislature, the Senate pro tem, and the speaker had asked, we sat down with all the wind industry, a lot of other business interests to decide, well, okay, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? You can't, and again, it's not about being against wind. No one, in fact, everybody wants alternative energy, and wind just happens to be one of those things. What it is, though, is about proper siting. So now we're trying to work through, we had some legislation that was put forward. Everybody wasn't quite on the same page, and so they set it aside so we can come back next legislative session and hopefully have agreeable language between industry and, you know, what it is that we think, the state thinks that needs to be done. And again, General Robertson weighed in on this effort. He, you know, not only made calls to the governor, but to legislative leaders. We know what the director of Clearinghouse thinks is important as well. And so the Senate pro tem, Senator Schultz out of Altus, which they had an issue down there that negatively impacted something that they were worried about, and this is where this legislation came from, but it was perfect timing, because what we can do at the federal level, marry it up with the state level, and then we'll have good protection effort. But what the senator had me work with the industry, the wind development folks, and they have a person that represents wind that works for that industry that just happened to be the first director of the Department of Defense Clearinghouse, former F-16 fighter pilot, and so he knows about airspace. He's a pretty good expert. So what I did was, my job was to get them all together, Air Force, Shepherd Air Force Base, Fort Sill, Altus, Tinker, Vance, all of our airspace folks, and what we did, got everybody in a room with the wind representative, who is an Air Force expert, because we know we can't do wide swaths of the entire state. That makes no sense to do. But what do we need to protect that doesn't negatively impact the mission? Training. We don't want to take away from that. So the Air Force gave all of their presentation. The Army gave all of theirs, said what was important to protect so it wouldn't take away from mission capabilities. I said, well, okay, Dave Belote is his name. What do you think needs to be protected? Well, then he went through, identified what needed to be protected in military training routes, which are highways in the sky. You can just take a highway in the sky. Don't block the entrance. Don't block the exit. Don't build across and allow for a 4-mile pathway over installations. Create so many miles north, so many miles east. You lay the box over that. That's what you protect. You know, you have to, because of what it does, you know, radar, but approaches, we're taking off and landing all day, all night sometimes. And then the issues with, which we don't use them, but the drop zones and the bombing ranges down south. Again, explain, you need to, as you're approaching those designated areas, when you get low, certain areas need, and so those all need to be protected. Military, what do you think? Those are all things we agree with, that if we do that, that doesn't take away from mission capabilities. So at the end of the day, we said, well, okay, write legislation that protects just what you said, which is what wind experts said needed to be protected, because we don't want to do any more, any less. And so anyway, that's where we were at this last legislative session. I think there'll be a couple of interim studies. We'll see if we can all get on the same page. I'll be in the middle of all of that to make sure that, you know, we don't do anything expensive. But so all of you know, because there's always a lot out there, we do have issues. But we do, you know, we can still do our training mission. It's not impacted. I mean, you know, they are able to fly and train the mission advance. It's what we do in the future. You've heard some of me say when you become city councilman, I've said sometimes one of the hardest things you have to do is say no to development. And that has to do with ACUS thing, you know, and that is not just to protect the Air Force. That's really to protect us as citizens, to protect lives, because you don't, you know, if they, God forbid, had a crash or something, the fewer people you have there that are impacted by that, the better. But same way with this issue with all the towers and structures. We don't want to do any more, but we also don't want to do anything less that would allow for negative impact of our great missions in the state of Oklahoma. Just with Vance, Tinker, and Altus, it's $15 billion annual economic impact. That's not including Fort Sill, and Fort Sill ranks up about $3 billion by itself, and they have a lot to play in this too. The Guard and Reserve, because they use the bombing ranges down south, so that's why we're doing this. So we now have the Department of Defense Clearinghouse folks working with us because there's some issues as we're working this. He'll work with us to ensure there's no negative impact on development because there's a lot of development being proposed out there, which is good, by the way, but we want to make sure we get the right answer while we're working on all this.
Is any party at the table kind of at bat for property owner interest? I mean, it seems like there are three legs to this stool, and the wind and the wind industry is only a piece of it. I mean, is this when the Air Force says you can't put up a turbine here? Is that a Fifth Amendment taking? And is there just
all of those
compensation
issues
required?
are being, there's a lot of legal stuff in there, but yeah, all of those people are. So
Okay.
even at the Defense Department level, state level, and also and that's why I say it's not an easy thing.
Yeah.
But the thing is, our base has been here since 1941. Those training routes and ranges and, all of those have been there for quite some time. And Oklahoma, any state's had a lot of these issues all the time about, development or whatever. And again, as you know, there's thousands of square miles of property out there. So there's the ability to wait. And wind and everybody.
Well, but for the individual property owner who only has a quarter section, there aren't thousands of acres. There's 160 acres. And if the Air Force says, I can't build a turbine on my property, the obvious argument that I've got clients who have wind turbines and love it, why can't the planes go 400 feet higher? But I get the argument. I just mean that the wind energy wants the farms built. They care less about on which individual quarter section. But there are folks out there who only have the one quarter section, and that's the part that I worry a little about.
Yeah, and all of that's being considered. That's why it's hard, and we've done hard things before. So they'll like I say, we'll work through it, I think. But at the federal level, at the moment, we have the ability to work through and resolve a lot of these issues. So I think there'll be more to come on this. And so whether you get everybody resolved or not, but again, no one was trying to do any more than what Wynn thought. There was a lot of interest, as you say, land interest folks so there was a lot of issues, and that's why it's hard. So we'll continue to work on that. One other thing that I've done is work with the Office of Economic Adjustment, who is the entity between the Department of Defense and states and cities. So they are going to provide, they're going to provide about a $1.3 million grant. The Military Planning Commission will take money from Tinker, Vance, Altus, and the Guard, because this is interest to them. And the Secretary and the Department of Defense Clearinghouse, they agree this is a good method or something to have, and we talked about it this morning, is that we'll provide about $120,000, we'll match dollars up to, say, 10%, and then they'll provide this $1.3 million grant. And what it does is it creates a library, creates maps, much like we did with our missiles up in, say, Montana, Wyoming. So they've done this before. And so what we'll do is we'll have that map created. The state of Oklahoma will have it, we'll have it, the congressional delegation will have it. But again, it's what absolutely is important and necessary to protect. In national interest, national security, what's important. And so this will be created, and then we'll have it, and then that's how you deal with workarounds or how you come up with all these solutions. So anyway, that is done. Also in the National Defense Authorization, we've talked about public-to-public, public-to-private partnerships. Currently, any of those agreements that you made between the city and the military, that were beneficial to the Air Force or to the community, they were for 5 years. We've added it, changed that to 10 years, because if you needed to amortize something else or bond something to make this happen, I gave an example today that Tinker's, Midwest City's looking at doing trash for Tinker. Well, that would actually mean they'd have to buy more trash trucks than Midwest City does for Midwest City. So 10 years gives them a longer time to amortize that out to make it, make a good business sense for that. We made sure and that's helpful for any community that has that done. The other thing that we've done at the or that's happening at in the National Defense Authorization Act is Senator McCain has a BRAC amendment, and since I represent the National Association of Defense Communities and you, well, the defense community is the entity that works with the House Armed Services Committee and staff, and House Armed Services Committee and staff to work. You've heard me mention before to work on how to, if you're going to have a BRAC, here's what would be better, how you protect communities better than, than have happened before, how to make not happen if, God forbid your base is closed. But if it is, we still have 30% of bases that haven't been turned over to communities or states to reuse them. How do we do that quicker? Maybe, we're suggesting things like have a single property disposal unit as opposed to all of the services have their own separate one. They're not good. They're good at military. They're not good at property disposal. They're not real estate people. Also, the environmental piece. There should be a downtime once we decide to, there's an environmental impact, they should clean it up, and there should be a time certain that that's done, as opposed to what we have now. On agreeing on what fair market value is. If your base is closed, you don't just get it, it's based on fair market value. So what we want too there is timelines on how that happens. We shouldn't be going on forever. I mean, we've had some bases that are going through fair market value trying to figure that out since 1995. So, and then the initial BRAC recommendation amendment that he had was for 2021. If you made our senator, our congressman in the state said, well, if you did that, you know what happens if you get a BRAC announcement and now it's 2021. That's devastating on your communities because everything stops, uncertainty and all that. So I think that if you see one, don't know if this is going to happen, but if you see one, the language has been changed for 2019. So if you have that, the other recommendation is for a BRAC in 2019 without a BRAC commission. Well, the BRAC commission was always set up so you had a fair and accountable, shine the light on if we had disagreements with what the Defense Department said. So our senator and our congressional folks would say that they're currently not for this type because, again, it doesn't address, this fair, open, and accountable process. There are some other changes they would like to see. I think they would all agree that they're going to eventually have one because all of the services and the Air Force would say they got 33 to 36% too much infrastructure. Now, that doesn't mean they need to close it that much, but that means they need to deal with it. So I wanted you to be aware of that because we're working with them. That amendment has been put forward, so it's on the schedule. I don't think it'll happen now until sometime in September that they vote on it. The process for that would be that they'd have a full floor vote. It wouldn't pass in committee. He's taken it to the full floor of the Senate. The minority leader, Senator Reid, wants a BRAC. The minority leader in the House, Congressman Smith out of Washington, wants a BRAC. So if it passes the floor, so if this amendment were to pass the floor, then it goes to conference. Well, the conference committee is the minority and majority leader of the Armed Services Committee. Well, that would be 3-1, so that means you're going to have a BRAC. Now, the issue is I think it'll be a close vote on the floor, so we'll find all that. But we're working very closely with our congressional delegation, the folks that are on Armed Services Committee, to make sure that we have as much input into that for any positive changes, for that whole process. And one of them would be that it needs to have that commission. So those are kind of some of the things that are going on. There's a lot of moving parts, but again, on the airspace, I thought it was important for you to understand we all get that airspace is our #1 military value. We do everything we can to protect it. We are working federal level in conjunction with the state, and so we'll see if that can be done or not. And there's a lot of entities, as Ben said, that are involved in that, so we'll see if we get there. So with that, that's kind of my report. Didn't mean to be lengthy, but there's a lot going on.
Who's in line behind Senator McCain on armed services for the majority party?
Senator Inhofe.
Okay, Inhofe is
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Anybody have questions?
I just wanted to make one comment. As you pointed out that you stepped down or you completed your 3-year term as chairman on the National Association of Defense Communities. As a retired airman, as a citizen of Enid, Oklahoma, and one that's interested in Vance Air Force Base very much, I want to thank you for your service and your leadership on that committee. And tell you that I'm very glad that you'll be around for 2 more years to help advise, and a couple years beyond that as well.
Thanks for having me.
No, it's, you've done a yeoman's job, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate that,
Mike,
George.
would you do a very brief update on the joint land use study? Because we're going to talk about that next time in study session. You won't be able to be here, but Jason Sweat will be here. I think Chris will go over that. But if you could talk about the importance and why we're doing it, how that will help us.
Yeah, joint land use study, and this will deal with, Vance Air Force Base, the runways, Kegelman, which is up by Salt Plains Lake, that they use a lot, and also Woodring. Joint land use study, and at least not in my lifetime, while I've been here, I don't know that we've ever done one. It's important to do it because what it does, and they fund this, through OEA, and it's so community leaders, business leaders, landowners, whoever, okay, here's the mission, here's what's important to protect, the ACUS order, here's the things that we need to protect. Here's the encroachment issues that we already have, because we have them. I mean, there are things that are in places that they'd really rather not have them because of safety and noise. And again, we've spent, this is even back when I was mayor or France or other, we've spent dollars to protect, against noise mitigation. So we've done windows insulation stuff where we are in areas, we got homes and businesses that are in areas where they could be impacted negatively, and we spent dollars, city spent dollars to do that. What this does is bring everybody together around all of those areas. So it won't just be Enid, it'll be, county members, county commissioners, others. So, okay, here are the key issues. Here are the things that we need to do, but it brings us all together to try to figure out and try to make, decisions on what to protect, what not, how do we move forward, and get agreement, with everybody. So that's a good thing to do. Chris Bowers, your city planner, that's city planning at its best. That's the whole issue, is to try to have a plan. So that will be done. That's funded again through OEA. I know you had to do certain % match on that, and I think a lot of that was in kind. There's only, a handful of entities that do that. And I think one of the entities that you have is one of the best in the U.S. to do that for us because they deal with these type issues all the time. But again, it's gets all of us at the table, try to decide among all of us what can we do, Because again, at the end of the day, we've all said, it used to be we treated Vance kind of like economic development ever is about infrastructure, quality of life. Well, now it's more about increased mission, reduce costs. Well, this just happens to be, if you want to increase mission, and I think, sir, you'll find out if you don't already know, we're probably going to increase mission by 20 to 30% advance because there are 1,000, to 1,500 pilots behind. So it's pilot shortage at the moment, which is a good thing for us, but that's why it's more important, if you got train more pilots, got to have that airspace. We have great airspace. So I think when you get to the end of the runway, you've heard me say before, they own and control it. So that's why we do it.
Mr. Cooper, do you potentially see any need for growth at the reason why I'm asking this question, because when you turn on the news, dealing with different countries that want to take us off the map.
Yeah.
That's a big concern.
So do I think there's any need for what? BRAC?
Potential growth.
BRAC?
Growth at the base.
Oh, growth at Vance?
It is growing already.
Do what?
I said it's already planned to grow, I think, because of the shortage of pilots.
Now, you're going to see us, I think, now I don't know how they deal with this, but because right now they have a shortage all the way around. Now they're looking to increase the total footprint of the Air Force by several thousand in this bill once it's passed, but because they have an issue with maintainers and, pilots and everything else. So, if you're going to increase mission by, is it 20, 30%? Do you need more planes? Do you need more people? Well, I don't know. They'll decide all of that. But I guess the other issue, do I think they need a BRAC? That's another thing that your congressional delegation is saying at the moment. Well, we have sequestration, which that takes away from defense. You can't decide on a budget. You can't. So think about it. If you're a defense person. We have great planners. We have great experts in the services. You know, all you really need to do is, whether it's high or low, just tell them what their budget is. And for the last several years, we really haven't had a budget. Plus, you got sequestration, so you're going to have less. And before sequestration already started, you took about $450 billion out of it. So, but now, if you hear about, well, okay, last time I checked, we don't have a lot of friends in the world. So there's a lot of issues going out there. So you have to have defense. However, as he would say, you know, I've not been to their war colleges and all that. You can do more with less. There are better weapons than there used to be. So the whole idea is, well, okay, what's my force structure? What do I need? What's my national defense strategy? What am I trying to do anyway? And if once I decide what that is, what does it take to man it? What are the necessary bombs, planes, tanks, missiles, whatever it is I need? And then you've got to try to figure out a way to fund it. So there's a lot of issues there, and a lot of people, the reason they would say they understand if business, it's kind of like business. If you have excess infrastructure, at some time you need to deal with it. Same way with the Defense Department. But if a lot of congressional delegations, some in ours, would say that, well, I'd sure like a lot of these other issues resolved before I start shedding excess capacity, because do I have the right infrastructure? I have the right people? Do I have the right? So there are a lot of questions there. So that's why I say with this amendment that's going forward, it's going to be very hard to get it passed. There is a pathway to get it passed, but so we'll see. And those are all the concerns.
Yeah, other questions, comments?
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Mayor, thanks for having me. Good to
Thank
see
you.
you all.
The results of the Historic Preservation Commission are Jimmy Nicholas with 6 votes, Star Adams Prince with 1 vote, and I will read you how we voted. For Star Adam Prince, Tammy Wilson, Jimmy Nicholas, Ron Jensen, Derwin Norwood, Benny Zell, Jonathan Waddell, George Pankinen, and Bill Shuey, 6-1. Now I have a surprise for everybody in here. We're going to do something a little different on the next 4 items. They are about a half a mile long, and I'm going to read them one time. What we will do is read the hearings, item 6.1, and then we'll skip to item 7.1, vote. The city attorney and the assistant city attorney have agreed to this. Then we'll go to item 6.2, and then we'll vote on 7.2, all the way through 7.4. Chris, I hope that doesn't upset you, but
It's a welcome change.
it's going to save 1 bottle of water up here in front of me. Chris? Do what?
So we could take turns reading aloud.
Yeah.
Everybody can read a paragraph.
We could. If you will start out with item 6.1, and when you finish, we will skip to item 7.1 and vote.
Are you going to read 6.1?
I will.
Do you want me to read it?
No, I'm prepared to read it. Chris,
Okay, you want me to give you the presentation on 6.1?
6.1, please.
Got it. It's on the screen. Back up here 1 slide. This is Stonebridge East. This is the site outlined in yellow. It's east of Cleveland and north of Chestnut. The next picture shows the supporting infrastructure, roads, water, and sewer. You're well aware of the improvements we're making to the road system at the intersection of Chestnut.
Chris, are you looking at something on the screen in front of
Why
you?
do we have nothing on this screen up here?
It's a good question.
I'm looking at it right there.
Me too.
We'll fix that directly. Just take a second.
You have to use your imagination.
So this is across the street from the existing.
Yes, Commissioner. Thank you. We'll give that projector just a minute, and I'll back up here.
So is the little blue corner Holdings?
Yes, ma'am. No input is detected on this screen yet. The lamp is on, but it says no input detected.
While we work on that, the mayor's going to need to read the item, is that correct?
Yes, he needs to read the item. He doesn't have to read it twice.
But we do need to go ahead and read the hearing.
So we could read the hearing while we're fixing it.
It's on the screen.
That doesn't matter to me.
Well, we need to move that item, and we haven't actually moved to any new item on the agenda yet. So we got to move to the item before we can do anything.
We're up.
We got it now.
Here we go.
Okay,
Okay.
we're fine.
Thank you, Julie.
Didn't know you were going to have a surprise too, Chris.
No. The yellow outline represents the site we're considering tonight. It currently is zoned R2 and R4, and in my next few slides, I'll tell you the zoning that we're asking for. And as you remember, we look at our infrastructure to see if it's adequate to support the proposed rezoning. In this case, we have road, water, and sewer of adequate capacity to support that. In my next slide, you will see the master development plan. Now it's turned direction on you, I apologize, but it allows you to see along the bottom is Cleveland and along the right is Chestnut. The yellow area is the residential piece, and they are proposing 85 single-family dwellings and 91 townhouses for a total of 4.7 units per acre. So it's a denser product than just being a full single-family development, and that is what we like to see in our Enid comprehensive plan, is a higher density. They are seeking rezoning in this area from R2 to R5, and the reason they're seeking R5 is you can build townhouses, you can build fourplexes, triplexes, duplexes, and single family. So it gives them maximum flexibility to respond to market change. The area in pink is a commercial piece. There is, in my background, I have that for you. I think it's 11.4 acres of commercial use. We've analyzed that. There will be an intersection, a traffic light right here where it intersects onto Cleveland, and that corresponds directly across the street into the apartments. When that commercial piece develops, that's when that signalization will go into place. The blue area represents the detention for this site. Are there any questions that I can answer?
What's this over here on the right-hand side? It looks kind of like a racetrack.
This right here?
Yes.
That's a single-family lots around a road system, and this interior island is single-family. So this is the entrance, this is a road. That's their layout of their lots.
I like the racetrack better.
It does look good.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Multi-use, right?
Yeah.
Mixed use.
Go-karts.
Mixed use.
What did the MAPC have to say?
Their recommendation to you was to approve unanimously.
One question too about the retail that's planned there. Is there any limit on the size of these retail stores, or could it be anything at all?
At this point, it is speculative. Those are representatives of what could be. Actually, when they have it, they'll come back to you, and this is in a PUD, planned unit development, and they will come back to you with a specific final plat and a final site plan, and they will know exactly what it is at that point.
It's not going to be a Walmart.
What?
It's not going to be a Walmart.
Well, that's the one thing, on the previous plan, where it was described to us as, I expected small retail, like maybe dental offices and things like that. And the first thing built out there was a big honking Walmart that nobody expected. And I was wondering if there's any large retail plan for this site.
Not at this point.
But it's a relatively small commercial chunk anyway. I mean, only 11 acres, and they will still have to meet all the zoning requirements for commercial use there, correct?
Correct.
I mean, despite being a PUD, they still have to comply with all the commercial zoning requirements for at 11 acres, so it can only be so, it can only be so big.
It's a finite amount that can be there, correct.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I thought last time. The And now, the residential development, is it going to be concurrent with the commercial development, or, across the street, to me, when this whole neighborhood plan was presented to us, I thought it was going to be basically residential. And so far, we got 2 houses over there and all kinds of other stuff. Is there going to be houses constructed here in any near time?
What we're going over tonight is the plan, their overall master plan. When it's finished, this is what it'll look like. Now, the market will tell them, are the houses first or the commercial? And at this point, we don't know.
But eventually, there will be some houses.
Right. I think you'll see them come back, and they will show you a preliminary plat and a final plat and a final site plan for a portion of this plan. It'll probably be done in phases, and that'll be market-driven.
My thought on the commercial side of it is if they provide sales tax revenue for the city of Enid and are profitable, that's a win-win situation.
It is, Mayor. You're exactly right.
We've got to have the sales tax revenue.
Yeah, I do think, though, it changes the nature of the neighborhood, depending on what it is.
Any other questions?
Well, I think that, Ron had a good point bringing that up, and I agree. I think any commercial development that brings revenue is a good thing, but I think we kind of got a little bit blindsided by that because people thought we knew what was going on and that we kept it from them, and that wasn't the case. So I think it's fair to say we don't know what they're going to put there.
That's correct.
What they put there is up to them.
What
We can't really say anything about it one way or the other.
What we're focusing on this evening is, do we have adequate infrastructure, road, water, sewer, stormwater to handle commercial and residential at this scale? And the answer is yes. And then in the PUD process, it'll come back to you multiple times with exactly what's going to get built and when.
So it's too early to determine who's going to be responsible for the roads and infrastructure like that. Is that a determination that is made now, or?
In the PUD statements, as a part of your packet, they are going to be public roads. And
Who's paying for them? So
the developer will install them according to our specifications, and our engineering team will inspect those projects to make sure that they meet those standards. And then, as all of our infrastructure improvements, when we do a project, we bring it back to you for acceptance. And when you do that, then we, the citizens, take care of the maintenance. So that's the process all over the city when we build road, water, and sewer.
And if we're going to grow in the city of Enid, we need that many housing units.
Correct, and this is an infill site that's been a donut for the lack of a donut hole for the lack of a better description for many, many years. So
Sure.
This is an opportunity for you to capitalize on the investment that you already have in your road, water, and sewer system.
4 years ago, we needed 400 housing units, and we're right close to that right now.
Right.
Anything else? George?
Is there any, will they look later at if there's any more traffic control requirements, turning lanes required, moving in, moving out? Is that all part of the project, or how does that work?
I appreciate you asking that question. We partnered, the city of us, with Gene Anderson on a traffic study, and we found out that what was being proposed at the intersection and the boulevard are just what we need for this project, so we're good.
Okay.
The only thing that'll happen in the future, and we're already aware of it, but is the traffic signal will need to be installed when the commercial piece develops.
Okay.
But if that doesn't develop for 5 or so years, then it delays that cost to the developer. Okay, does that help answer that?
Yep.
I want to lift up one other thing, if you would let me. In our recently adopted comprehensive plan, this is your big idea 5 of model neighborhoods where you do have mixed uses integrated into the development. And this is where we see the future as people wanting to walk from their home down to get commercial services rather than getting in their car and driving 3 or 4 miles. So that's what this project will accomplish. Thank you.
An infill.
One other item, if I may. Do we have a timeline now for the creation of the boulevard that you mentioned?
Can you help me with that, Chris?
Absolutely. Yes, as you recall, we approved the agreement with ODOT at the last meeting in July, and we made our payment to ODOT. We anticipate that they will release that for bid in October of this year. We'll stagger beginning of construction for the intersection and the boulevard until Willow Road is done.
So when would you think that?
First quarter of 18,
First quarter of
2018.
that's next year.
To begin, Chris?
We think the two will begin. That is the last word that we heard from ODOT, is they would like to bid those two together. We have not seen that documentation specifically to nail that down, but that's the plan that we are executing to.
So you think it might actually be completed sometime probably in 19?
Depends on the weather and how everything else works. It's a possibility.
You think it's
It is
a realistic expectation?
Say yes, Chris.
It could be somewhat of a realistic expectation.
Okay.
Because it really depends on how long does it take us to get out of Willow Road, because we don't want all these three things building at the same time. We don't want any of these three building, and then for them to come along and redo the bridge over the 81 bridge. So we've got to manage all those and stagger them such.
Well, you do realize there are a lot of people that are very anxious to see this road created.
Oh, absolutely.
And we do hear from some of them from time to time.
Yeah. Time to time.
Yeah, actually, I've heard from one recently reminding me that we agreed to call it Benson Boulevard, too.
That's exactly right.
Just so nobody forgets.
I have not forgotten.
Not it.
There's a
So-
sign.
In honesty, it depends on what ODOT decides to do.
And whether they have any money to do it.
Your guess is as good as mine, sir.
Okay.
Mayor, this is a hearing. There may be others that wish to speak to it. I'll step aside if there's no other questions for staff. Thank you.
Anybody? Gene, did you want to speak to it?
If you would like me to.
You
Do
may
we
ha-
need to do something, Carol, to move to that? I mean, do we need to read that agenda item before we conduct the hearing? So
Yep.
before we let Jean speak, we need to read the agenda item.
Yes.
Might want to
Catch that,
sit
Bill?
down, Gene.
She says we need to read it before we do the hearing.
Gene, you may have a seat.
Unless you want to stand there the whole time.
I'm going to, anyone else besides Gene that wants to speak may after I finish item 6.1, Carol? Is that correct?
Yes.
Under item 6, hearings, item 6.1, conduct a hearing for a residential and commercial plan unit development, design statement, and master development plan for Stonebridge East, PUD, described as part of the west half of the southwest quarter of Section 1, Township 22 North, Range 7 West of the Indian Meridian, and a part of West Douglas Addition, Garfield County, Oklahoma, more particularly described as follows. Beginning at the southeast corner of said west half, southwest quarter, Section 1, thence south 89 degrees, 51 minutes, 12 seconds west along the south line of said southwest quarter, Section 1, for a distance of 789.06 feet to a point 530 feet from the southwest corner of said southwest quarter, Section 1, thence north 0 degrees, 0 minutes, 46 seconds east, parallel with the west line of said southwest quarter, Section 1, and along the east line of a parcel recorded at Book 1152, page 566, for a distance of 660 feet. Thence, south 89 degrees, 50 minutes, 12 seconds west, parallel with the south line of said southwest quarter, Section 1, and along the north line and its extension of said parcel recorded at Book 1152, page 566, for a distance of 530 feet. Thence, north 0 degrees, 0 feet, 46 seconds east on the west line of the said southwest quarter, Section 1, for a distance of 1,774.66 feet to a point 206.88 feet south of the northwest corner of said southwest quarter, Section 1. thence north 89 degrees, 59
Minutes.
13 seconds east, thanks, Ben,
No problem.
for a distance of 141.94 feet, thence south 44 degrees, 49 feet, 9 seconds east on the southeasterly railway rights-of-way for a distance of 1,448.75 feet to the beginning of the non-tangential curve. Thence, continuing on said right-of-way on a curve, turning to the left through 2 degrees, 7 minutes, 47 seconds. Having a radius of 5,814.79 feet and an arc distance of 260.06 feet, and whose long chord bears south 45 degrees, 45 minutes, 35 seconds east for a chord distance of 216.05 feet to a point on the east line of said southwest quarter section 1. Thence, continuing on said rights-of-way and on the north line of West Douglas Addition on a curve turning to the left through an angle of 3 degrees, 39 minutes, 49 seconds, having a radius of 5,814.79 feet, an arc distance of 358.30 feet, and whose long chord bears south 48 degrees, 39 minutes, 25 seconds east for a chord distance of 358.24 feet to the common north corner of West Douglas Addition and Douglas Addition. Thence south 0 degrees, 0 minutes, 8 seconds east on the common line of said West Douglas Addition and Douglas Addition for a distance of 325.07 feet. Thence, south 89 degrees, 50 minutes, 12 seconds west on the common lot line and its extension of lots 16 and 17, Block 1, West Douglas Addition for a distance of 158 feet. Thence, south 0 degrees, 0 minutes, 8 seconds east on the east line and its extension of Block 2, West Douglas Addition for a distance of 90 feet. Thence, south 89 degrees, 50 feet, 12 inches west on the north line of Block 3, West Douglas Addition for a distance of 110.58 feet. Thence, south 0 degrees, 1 minute, 41 seconds east on the east line of said west half, southwest quarter, section 1, and the west line of West Douglas Addition of 600 feet to the point of the beginning. Located northeast of the corner of West Chestnut Avenue and North Cleveland Street from R2 residential single-family district and R4 residential duplex or two-family dwelling district to R5 townhouse district and C2 planned business center district. Gene? Speak as long as you would like.
Well, I hope nobody asks us to repeat that legal description.
The railroad must have been involved.
Yes, it was. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just give you kind of a brief summary and be real brief. I'm Gene Anderson with AC Developments. We are the Stonebridge developer. In 2012, we purchased a horse farm in the middle of town between the country club and downtown. And we had a vision that could be a nice residential and commercial area. Many of you were involved in that process that we went through. And I think it's an interesting project in that it was it's a good example of how a developer and the city and the neighborhoods can come together in a joint effort to bring development like this along. So We purchased that in 2012 and went through the process to start the west, and the apartments are up and running now. We've got some commercial going, and we've got some residential. So our concept of single-family, multifamily, and commercial in a village setting is coming along. So we are here now we have another idea. And in that process, we got the 50 acres on the east side, working with the city to give them acres in our 80-acre setting to fulfill a commitment with floodplain. And that project has proved to be beneficial. Now we don't have those huge streams of water running down Cleveland. It now goes into that nice lake. And we'll be putting up a 30-foot fountain so that people can tell there really is water in that lake. And so that should be an aesthetic value that we'll add to it. So we're now talking about Stonebridge East. Why do we think that Stonebridge East is a good idea? As you all know, it takes a lot of money to build homes, and we have an aging population of retirement people in this community, in our state, and this will be an opportunity for some downsizing. We'll be able to build some smaller homes in there that don't take a lot of maintenance, some townhomes, maybe 3 or 4 different residential design projects. So we think that that's where our future is, and we're anxious to see how that develops. And Ron, we hope that we'll be back with some firm ideas when that develops and what we want to do. So we appreciate your consideration tonight and thank all of you for efforts.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? We will now skip to item 7.1 under community development. I'll read the first 2 lines. We will now consider an ordinance for a residential and commercial plan unit development, PUD, design statement, and master development plan for Stonebridge East. Chris.
This is a companion item to the hearing that we just conducted. Are there any questions staff can answer? This is the ordinance that will do the rezoning that we talked about.
I'll move to approve.
This is when we vote. A motion by Ben. Second by George. Further discussion.
Yeah, I just want to say, as the representative at that ward, the Stonebridge and the Esplanade apartments that are in currently, and the shopping center has been a huge asset to that part of our town. And I think it looks very nice. I think that it's increased all kinds of shopping and people coming to that part of town for different things. And as somebody that lives right around the corner from the Walmart, I really like it. And I just wanted to tell you, I think it looks great, and I'm excited to see the other part of it come along. So thanks.
Further comments, questions? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. We will now go back to item 6.2.
Can I see there it comes, thank you. This, Mayor, Commissioner, City Management, now we're moved out to East O&K Garrett at 54th Street. Most of the time you'll think about that's Advanced Pierre site on the east side of 54th. This considers the site on the west side of that street. It's outlined in yellow, and the supporting infrastructure, just like on the previous project that we talked about, is there. The roads, water and sewer, and the capacity is there to change the zoning on this project from I1 to I2. And the reason it's going to I2, this will be the home of Northwest Crane Company, and that is the correct zoning district for a contractor equipment yard. Are there any questions?
Is there anything on that property now?
Is there any what, sir?
Anything on there at all?
Not to my knowledge.
No structures?
No, sir.
Been a wheat field for years.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an outfit, they do just heavy crane work?
Right. And they're based out of Woodward, and this is going to be their Enid home site right here.
Cool.
Yes. This is a hearing. There may be others wanting to speak to.
Kisley, you might want to talk about it, but you need to read it first.
Yeah. Brent, do you want to say anything about it after I read the, you may. You'll have time to think about it. I will read item 6.2. It's not as long, by the way. You'll notice there was a railroad in that area. Item 6.2, conduct a hearing to rezone property described as a tract of land in the southeast quarter of Section 11, Township 22 North, Range 6 West of the Indian Meridian, Garfield County, Oklahoma, as shown on plot of Survey S09-0423, the legal description of which was prepared by Charles W. Street, LS, license 1150 on November 16, 2009. The basis of bearing being a measured bearing of the south 0 degrees 11 minutes 7 seconds east of the east line of said southeast quarter, and which is more particularly described as follows. Commencing at the northwest corner of said southeast quarter, thence 323.20 feet south, 0 degrees, 5 minutes, 50 seconds west, along the west line of said southeast quarter to the south right-of-way line of United States Highway 412/64, as described at Book 265 Miscellaneous, page 97, for a point of beginning. Thence easterly on a curve to the left, a radius 86,668.7 feet, an arc length of 1,877.28 feet, the chord of which bears north 89 degrees, 23 minutes, 2 seconds east, 1,877.22 feet along said south right-of-way, thence north 89 degrees, 10 minutes, 52 seconds east, 59.30 feet along said south right-of-way. Thence south 79 degrees, 30 minutes, 32 seconds east, 76.49 feet along said south right-of-way. Thence north 89 degrees, 10 minutes, 52 seconds east, 609.10 feet along said south right-of-way to the east line of said southeast quarter. Thence south 0 degrees, 11 minutes, 7 seconds east along said east line, 1,520.51 feet to the north right-of-way line of the St. Louis and San Francisco Railroad. Thence north 62 degrees, 41 minutes, 9 seconds west along said north right-of-way, 2,955.32 feet to the west line of said southeast quarter. Thence north 0 degrees, 5 minutes, 50 seconds east along said west line, 148 feet to the point of beginning, located at the southeast corner of 54th and Highway 412, which is Owen K. Garrett Road, from I-1 Planned Industrial Park to I-2 Industrial Light District. Brett, do you have anything to say about that parcel? I know you do.
You make it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, and City Manager. We're very excited to have Northwest Crane with a location here in our community. Like you say, they are headquartered out of Woodward, and we have had conversations on the phone with them about their presence here in the community. A lot of the reason why they're moving here is because we've had such a large amount of construction over the last several years, whether it be from wind farms to pipelines to even their involvement with the coke plant expansion. So we're excited to have them as part of our community. I'm not entirely sure everything that they're planning to do on this site, but I think most of it is just having an Enid location for equipment that they've been moving here from Woodward over the last several years.
Thank you.
Sure.
We'll go to item 7.2. Consider an ordinance rezoning property described as a tract of land in the southeast quarter.
This is the ordinance that changes the zoning from I-1 to I-2.
Move to approve.
Second.
Question, we have a motion by Ben, second by Tammy. Questions or comments? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 6.3.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. We're still on Garriott. We've moved a little further east at 66. We are now on the north side of Garriott. This is for TT&L's wind turbine laydown. Same thing that they're doing north of this site. We have adequate road that's being built to support the rezoning of this as we speak. There is no public water or sewer. It'll be private. And with this particular development, the need for large quantity of water and sewer is not there. It's recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. Are there any questions of staff?
I will read item 6.3. Conduct a hearing to rezone property described as the west half of the northwest quarter of Section 7, Township 22 North, Range 5 west of the Indian Meridian, accepting roadway easement to County 66th Street, strip of Highway 412/64 located at the northeast corner of 66th and Highway 412, known as O&K Garriott Road, from A Agricultural District to I3 Industrial Heavy District.
This one too.
Brent, would you like to speak on this one also?
He was playing with his phone, it's fine.
Educate us.
Sure, we're very familiar with this one. As you know, TP&L has moved in, and their prime component that they bring in is components for wind energy development in northwest Oklahoma. And with the announcement this last week from PSO of a $4.5 billion investment in northwest Oklahoma in wind energy, you're going to see a lot more components brought in through rail at that site and stored. Most people don't realize TP&L also has purchased the old Chesterfield building and are building a new 50,000 square foot building adjacent to that site, so they have a pretty substantial presence here in the community. This is just more space for them to store products and get more of those contracts to come into our community. And it gets them all the way up to the front. And one thing I might mention as well, if you remember, whenever they first came to town, we passed a tax increment finance district in order to help offset some of the costs for 66th Street, which is under construction today. We had included this parcel of land in that TIF, and so this will allow for the TIF to be paid off more quickly. I can't remember the time frame that we had set for that, but it'll basically double the amount of investment that they have in the increment district, which is good. We get our money back more quickly. Any questions?
Have they started on the building south of?
They have at Chesterfield, yes, sir.
Pardon me?
Yes, they've begun construction. I know the footings are laid. I don't know if it's gone vertical yet.
Good, good. Thank you.
Sure.
We will now skip to item 7.3 and consider an ordinance rezoning the property.
This ordinance will rezone it from agricultural to I3.
Correct. Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Motion by Jonathan.
Second.
Second by Derwin. Questions, comments? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-0. Now we're going to go back to item 6.4.
And here it comes. This is the site. On the left side there is Oakwood Road. On the north is Randolph. The blue area, or the entire site, is in the red dashed line. Part of the site is currently zoned C3, and the other part is zoned R2, and that's what we're here tonight to hear and consider rezoning the area that's zoned R2, outlined by the yellow box, to C3. Just like the previous rezonings, we make sure that we have adequate road, water, and sewer, stormwater in place to support a higher intensity use, and we do in this case. It's recommended for approval. Are there any questions?
What is that R2 area right now?
It's wheat land. This has all been farmland, this whole corner. The little box there is I think it's the Dollar Store or Dollar General. I get those two.
Dollar General.
Thank you, Mayor. It's the land north of there up to the intersection of Randolph. It's been a wheat field for many, many years.
Okay, gotcha.
Holdings is right across Randolph, Daily.
Gotcha.
This is another one of those donut holes that is finally being developed.
Good.
It'll be the home of Randy Ham's new dealership.
Somebody over here, Derwin, did you have a question? No, sir. Okay.
I'll step aside. There may be others that wish to speak, Mayor. This is the hearing.
Item 6.4, conduct a hearing to rezone property described as a part of the southwest quarter of Section 11, Township 22 North, Range 7 West of the Indian Meridian, Enid, Garfield County, Oklahoma, as shown by Exhibit B, and being more particularly described as follows. Commencing at the northwest corner of said southwest quarter, Section 11, thence in a southerly direction along the west line of said southwest quarter, Section 11, for a distance of 460 feet, thence in an easterly direction parallel to the north line of said southwest quarter for a distance of 353 feet to the point of beginning, thence in a southerly direction along the west line of said southwest corner for a distance of 521.96 feet, thence in an easterly direction parallel to the north right-of-way of Oklahoma Avenue for a distance of 364 feet to a point on a curve on the west boundary of Nielsen Place, 6th Edition. Thence continuing along the west boundary of Nielsen Place, 6th Edition, said curve turning to the right through an angle of 17 degrees, 53 minutes, 33 seconds, having a radius of 1,790 feet and an arc length of 558.98 feet, thence in a westerly direction parallel to the north line of said southwest corner for a distance of 176.404 feet to the point of beginning of said parcel containing 3.0539 acres, more or less, located west of Nielsen Place, 6th Edition, south of Randolph Avenue and east of Oakwood Road, from R2 residential single-family dwelling district to C3. Anyone here care to speak regarding that?
I'm just here for Randy if you have any questions.
Okay.
Has the city received any residential opposition to that, since it's kind of right?
No, Commissioner.
Debbie, I didn't hear your question.
I just asked if there had been any residential opposition, because it looks like it's really kind of close. Backs up to a bunch of neighborhoods, so I just wondered. I mean, not that it matters, I mean, I don't mean it doesn't matter, it does matter. It does matter. I'm just saying, because as long as the zoning is within the law, we legally
Keep
have
digging
to
that hole, Tammy.
approve it anyway. I'm just saying, so, I mean, legally, we have to approve the zoning if it's within the law anyway, so, but of course it matters. I'm just saying, I was curious, because if there was a huge amount of opposition, I would rethink my position about that.
They've looked at the wheat field for a long time.
Trying to
You're good.
trying to be thoughtful.
Anybody else?
I've got another question, just to help you. That that lower right-hand portion, the rezoning that's R2.
Yes, sir.
Was that rezoned because there was somebody has a plan to develop it, or was that just to make it?
Can I have that picture back, Julie, please? Thank you. Okay, so we're right here, Commissioner?
Yep.
And
Yep.
it currently is R2?
So it's currently R2?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
Gotcha.
And we're gonna, if you approve it, it'll become C3. Then his entire property will be commercial.
Oh, so all of it in the red is the C3?
All of it in red is his property.
Gotcha.
He's got two zonings right now. He's wanting to have just one.
Okay.
And the site plan that I've seen that he's submitted probably a year ago primarily takes up this much of the site, right in here. So this will be future growth for him in the future.
And essentially, the Nissan will go across the street from Stevens, kind of. Or is it,
Well-
it's further east than that, isn't it?
Well, this is up at Randolph, Commissioner, in Oakwood.
For the west.
Oh, Oakwood. I'm backwards, gotcha.
Yeah,
Is part of this going to be on-site detention?
yes.
So a big chunk of that may just be,
Just like all of our developments, he will do on-site detention.
This was Gary for some reason, it's because it's turned wonky.
And that's why I
Gotcha.
gotta bring it up on here.
Further questions, comments?
we got to go to the other thing.
We're going down to 7-4.
Sorry.
Believe it or not, this saved a lot of time.
Yeah.
Item 7,
Right. Chestnut.
item 7.4, consider an ordinance rezoning the property that's just been described.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ron,
Second.
second by Jonathan. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Chris,
Should be,
I think we're through with item 6.
yep, yes, we are. We're on
Item
7.5.
7.5?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll stay here.
Item 7.5, consider a sidewalk variance for TP&L at 301 South 54th Street, described as a southwest quarter of Section 12, Township 22 North, Range 6 West, of the Indian Meridian in Garfield County, Oklahoma.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ben, second by Jonathan. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. For item 8, administration. Item 8.1, consider approval of an application for a capital recovery water line extension by Warren Power and Machinery, Inc., Midland, Texas, on North State Highway US 81, project number W-1713A. Robert?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. This is an application, as you stated, for capital recovery for water line extension on North 81. I provided some of the information here. It's on the application, which covers that the cost for the improvement is estimated on the application at about $304,920.79. So that's the estimated cost for the improvement of about a half-mile water line. The project also includes the developer area that is developing this property, which is Warren Cat, which is, they take up about 20.4 acres of the boundary that the water line would be served, and the boundary is established by the application of the area being served is, I think, 153 acres. And our next slide shows the general location of the water line extension. It is, you can see Phillips Road at the bottom and Highway 81 in the center, and the blue dashed line extending up to is the proposed extension, water line extension. The next slide shows, again, you see Phillips Road at the bottom and Highway 81 going up the center. The area in blue, outlined in blue, is the Warren Cat property that is the applicant for this site. The area in red, shown on the map, is the impact, the boundary of the impact area. It is the area that would anticipate to be served by the water line in the future. It is basically a half-mile by half-mile square. The area to the right or to the east of the Highway 81 is in North Enid, not in the city of Enid, so not subject to this ordinance. Results of approval of the ordinance would allow for the extension of the water line by a private contract. Future users in the area outlined in red would then pay their share of the cost for the extension when and if they tie in and make use of the water. The first year cost to connect, based on the estimate at this point, is $1,344.50 per acre. So if a second development comes in at 10 acres, then it would be 10 times that number, a little over $13,000 for their share of the water line. The cost does inflate annually on a 4% per year basis, and the term of the capital recovery is 12 years. So development within that 12 years would and who made use of the water line would be required to pay their cost share. This item has gone before the Planning Commission. They've approved the application, and it's here for your acceptance.
Robert, item 2, future users pay when used. Do they pay that to the city as opposed to?
Yes, the way the ordinance provides, and I'll go back just a little bit to cover the cost. Also want to cover that the cost of $304,000, the cost, there is $100,000 of cost share being provided by the Economic Development Authority, so that reduces the eligible cost to a little over $204,000. The developer's share is $26,000 based on their acreage of that cost. So there is a $178,000, little over $178,000 that can be collected from future users. So to go back to your answer your question, yes, when a future user was to develop an area, or existing user wanted to tie on and make use of the water system, then they would pay their proportional cost of the extension cost of that $178,000 presented up there, and based on that would be assessed at $1,345.50 per acre. That fee would be paid to the city of Enid, and the city retains 5% of the collected fees to administer the program, and returns 95% to the developer.
To Warren?
Yes.
Okay. Is the cemetery in North Enid, or does that fall back into the city of Enid? Enid Memorial Cemetery? Catty Corner?
That is, I believe, I know the property directly to the east is in North Enid, and I believe the cemetery is in North Enid. I don't believe it's in the city of Enid. That's correct.
It is in North Enid?
I believe so.
Okay.
It's not in the city of Enid. Our boundary is shown, city limits boundary is shown in red along the Highway 81 right away. Be happy to answer any other questions.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ben and second by George to approve item 8.1. Further discussion, comments? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-1.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Item 8.2, consider a resolution indicating the support by the Enid City Council authorizing the mayor of the city of Enid to accept a grant from the Oklahoma Strategic Military Planning Commission to help with the funding of a joint use planning room to be included in the new terminal facility that will be built at the Enid Regional Airport. Enid Woodring Regional Airport.
Move to approve.
Second.
That one's easy.
Motion by Ben and second by Ron.
Good job, Ono.
Yeah.
Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 9, consent items.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ben to approve.
Second.
Second by Jonathan. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 10. We'll now recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. Item 11, all of the trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority are in attendance at the regular meeting. Item 12, the Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 12.1, approval of claims in the amount of $143,137.42.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Jonathan.
Second.
Second by George. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 13, we will now adjourn to convene as the Enid Public Transportation Authority. Item 14, the trustees of the Enid Public Transportation Authority regular meeting are in attendance. Item 15, the Enid Public Transportation Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 15.1, approval of claims in the amount of $15,698.69.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Jonathan.
Second.
Second by Ben. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 16, will now adjourn to convene as the Enid City Commission. Item 17, public comments. We have two people signed up. First one is Brian Carr. Brian, need your name and address, please.
My name is Brian Carr, 2604 East Randolph. I know that a lot of you people know what's going on, and I just want to say I told you I was going to call the governor's office, and I had a talk with them, and they told me just to stay calm and allow my lawyer to do the talking, and I said okay. But you know, to me, it's a shame that the governor's office, the Attorney General's office know what's going on here. But they said that the lawyer's going to have to do the talking. Now, you know, I'm very upset at you, Gerald. You know, you put a little under $1,000 lien on my water bill. Well, last month, I paid that $1,000, but I was $62 short on my water bill, and they came and shut my water off. And I had a big argument with them in there, and I had to go borrow the $62 plus the $30 instatement fee, and it took them 3 hours to come and cut my water on. And you know, my girl was doing a lot of cooking and cleaning, and it just, my whole life just stopped over $62, and I paid over $1,500 to the water company here. But that's okay, you know, because I'm really beginning to see that black lives in Garfield County don't mean a dime, you know. When one of us get killed, y'all's bonds are $5 grand. But when one of us get caught with $100 to $200 worth of crack cocaine, our bonds are $30,000 to $50,000 to get out. That ain't right. And, you know, I don't know what we can do about that, because it's been going on here for 50, 60 years. But I know this, y'all sent your best boys after me and told me to leave. I'm not going nowhere. I don't have to. I'm born and raised here, and I'm gonna stay. And you know, all I can say is, all I'm trying to do is just live a good, clean life and do what's right. But some of y'all don't want me around here, but y'all gonna have to suck it up and deal with me, because I'm not going nowhere. And there's a lot of good people in Enid that's supporting me, and I'm gonna stay. You know, all I'm saying is, I went to the courthouse today, and I had so many people come up and shake my hand and give me a hug and tell me I'm well respected here, don't go nowhere, you know. I went in and talked to Judge Laddick, and I told Judge Laddick, I said, step up and let's get this thing done and over with. And he said, no, we got rules and regulations we have to go by. And I was like, okay, well, where was those rules and regulations when y'all came after me? And his words were, well, we're not gonna go into that car. I'm just saying, ain't nothing we can do. So I said, okay. So I just made my little rounds and everything. All I'm saying is, I wanna end this. Next month, no, in September, is my trial. And all I'm asking is, take me to trial. Let's go up in front of this all-white jury you want to take me in front of, and let your skeletons come out. Let everybody know what's going on around here, or drop it and let's deal with it. I'd rather for you to drop it and let's deal with it, and let's move forward. I see all this money you're spending out there. Our money's going into it too, but what are we gonna get out of it? Nothing. You're gonna take our money and you're gonna go out there and you're gonna do what you wanna do, and we're gonna get nothing out of it. We got to stay over here on our side of town and deal with it. All I'm saying is, start doing stuff right. What's been going on around here for 50, 60 years, you've been getting away with, even the killings of us, you done got away with it. You know, all I'm saying is, let's start doing stuff right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Diane.
Diane Levesque, 1324 West Oak Avenue, and I am very overjoyed to see the city attorney back where she belongs. Should never have been let go in the first place. That's my personal opinion, but with those pleasantries over with, I wanted to bring up to the new attorney, and I'll probably repeat these on your next attorney, having to do with copyright, ETN's violation of copyright, and the fact that I am the sole copyright owner of anything marked Pegasus Incorporated. I did tell the commission that earlier, several months ago, as the last remaining member of Pegasus. So as long as I'm the copyright holder, I'm Pegasus. However, I am going to recognize the gentleman who spoke before me as an equal Pegasus member who remains. I'm sure it's pretty obvious he doesn't know the ins and outs of copyright law, which is why he needs an attorney, but should he exercise his right as a co-Pegasus member over any copyright marked Pegasus Incorporated, you can bet that I will accommodate those desires. Now, in terms of copyright law, earlier in ETN's history, it had what I thought was, without permission, running some copyrighted material. And I brought that to the attention of ETN and got no response, so I contacted the copyright holder. This was a case having to do with Deutsche Welle, which is an international broadcaster. They were running a rock show about that. Now, getting down to brass tacks, when Pegasus assets were sold off, it was all hardware. None of the intellectual property was given a value, sold off, or properly disposed of, except, and this is hearsay, I'll grant you that, to dispose of in the circular filing cabinet, which means that as the current copyright holder, you disposed of my property. That remains outstanding. And with regards to ETN Pegasus, there's also the outstanding matter of equal opportunity employment denied Wendy Quarles. Now, we're closing in on the statute of limitations on her ability to file with the Equal Opportunity Employment Department and file a grievance on that. I don't know if she's even been issued by that department a right to sue. But I want everyone to know and refresh your memory on that I gave her all the contact information she needed in order to pursue that, and I stand as a witness on her behalf should she be interested in doing that. Now, as far as equal opportunity employment is concerned, ETN remains a white good old boy outfit that is not open for mitigation in that department. You had one token non-white on there, and when he left, it remains a good old boys club. Now, given what happened to Wendy Quarles in the terms of the fact that this is an employment situation, and given the fact that you're not remedying the current situation with ETN, the City of Enid's status as an equal opportunity employer remains forfeit.
Thank you. Item 18, consider convening into executive session pursuant to 25 Oklahoma Statute 307B4, pending lawsuit to discuss City of Enid versus Fairway Outdoor Advertising, LLC et al. SC-2016-44, to engage in confidential communications between the commission and the attorney because disclosure will impair the commission's ability to proceed with the lawsuit and reconvene into regular session to take any necessary action.
Motion to convene.
Motion by Ron.
Second.
Second by Jonathan. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you for joining us for the Enid City Commission meeting. If you have any questions or comments, visit our website at enid.org.